Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cast Revive. I am Matt Heimerl, here with my good friend Steve Monselsi,
Hello, everyone.
and this is a weekly podcast devoted to video game music. That's right, video game music, not just normal video game topics. You figure there's not enough podcasts out there devoted to specifically gaming music, and even more specifically, our favorite video game music.
That's
and that's
right.
what's going to be interesting about this particular podcast is because it's going to be top fives. And basically what that means is every week we're going to have a specific category, hopefully given to you, the fans. You'll tell us, say, for example, we want to hear your top five Zelda tracks or top five just Nintendo tracks. And we'll pick out our favorites, play them back to you, and let you kind of understand why we chose those tracks and why they're our favorites. But before we get into all that, we'll just give you a little background about ourselves and all that kind of stuff. And let Steve start it off with his sexiness.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Well, I've been gaming my entire life, and my first actual gaming system I've owned was an NES. And as you know, and as our listeners will soon come to know, I pretty much have everything under the sun as far as consoles are concerned. You know, with a few exceptions. Collecting for me is a big deal.
Big is an understatement.
That is true. That is true. My game room's kind of ridiculous. But you know, for me, the game music is very important. And, you know, and I think, Matt, you'll agree with me that it is a driving force, you know, behind games. And sometimes, you know, it's very much like a movie or a TV show where music can set the stage all by itself.
Absolutely.
And, you know, to the point where, you know, video games went from, you know, bleeps and bloops to full-fledged orchestras, big names. You have musicians wanting to solely write for, you know, their favorite game franchise just to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, because you think about it. I mean, you hear a game, you hear a soundtrack you haven't heard in 20 years from like a Nintendo or a Sega track, and you're brought back. And
Absolutely.
Just think of the importance of, you know, the Super Mario Brothers theme. If that didn't exist, you just played that game without it, would it be as remembered? I mean, that is probably the most remembered gaming track of all time. Everybody knows the Super Mario Brothers theme.
But that's also a double-edged sword, you know, because sure, you have some music that will, like, you know, you take the treasure box opening music from Legend of Zelda,
right.
And you know, I remember that was awesome. But there's also some of those musics that take you back to, I remember grinding that for hours.
Yes.
If I hear that music again,
You're right.
You know, this thing's going out the window. But I mean, it absolutely is very important. As a matter of fact, I read a study recently on if you ever want to remember something while you're studying, they say the best thing to listen to is video game music. And the reason behind that is because it is designed to keep the player engaged. And it helps you remember things, you know, a lot easier than it would be than just hitting the books. And it's a proven study. And
I like
you know,
that. I like that idea. I'll have to try that. So like, oh, wait a minute. Is that the Metal Gear theme? Wait a minute. I remember how to do this equation.
And then you start jamming out in the middle of the class, you know, and people looking at you
Yes!
like you're the crazy one. They just don't know.
You can thank. Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm actually gonna have to try that.
What about you, Matt? What got you into it?
Well, my number one, which I won't give away just yet, is the reason I got into gaming music. I've been a gaming music fan since early 90s, and I have probably now close to about 30,000 different tracks spanning multiple albums all across the board.
Nice.
I mean, from Atari all the way up to modern consoles and PC. I mean, everything in between. I've just been a huge fan. I mean, my favorite composer has been Uematsu, who's known for the Final Fantasy soundtracks, but Jeremy Soule comes in second. He does Guild Wars and the Oblivion, the Elder Scrolls series, stuff like that. I'm leaning more to the heavily orchestral music as of late. Just the stuff that they can do. It is like it is like a movie. I mean, when you hear it, you're just like, I'm watching some huge blockbuster film, but you're not. I'm playing a game, and you're so immersed, and the music is heavily a part of that. Not just music, but the ambiance that they create in some of these games. It's unreal. It's unreal.
And what's great is like a lot of the music has such a tone that you can hear it and not only take you back to, oh, I remember that, but you know exactly what game it is.
Exactly.
And you know, and even if you don't know the kind of game it is, you know, here's an example. If you were to hear a piece from, say, Echo the Dolphin, and you've never played an Echo the Dolphin game, just from that sound that it is, you know that it's a water-based game.
Yeah, it's a very aquatic game.
You know,
Yeah.
you might not know it has anything to do with a dolphin, but you're in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by it's that important, and it's that subtle at times.
And games back then, I mean, a lot of games stood out as their own. I mean, when you think of, you know, the Mega Man soundtrack or the Metroid, they have their own, like, with how limited they were with the technology, they were so different from anything else that was out there. You hear Mega Man, you're like, that is Mega Man. Mega Man has the same type of tempo and beat, but each track and each game is so different from each other.
Well, let me ask you this. This is something that we haven't even discussed yet. I'm just going to throw this out at you, Matt, since we're having this back and forth. Do you think game music is more memorable for a game that is the first of its kind? So, for example, you know, before the NES came out, there wasn't really such a thing as a soundtrack per se.
Right.
You know, but do you think the Super Mario Brothers theme, for example, is as popular as it is because that is the first game of its genre that really got into the hands of the most people?
I think so. Because it really started a craze, and Super Mario is responsible for, well, a lot of the great games that you have now is kind of the building block. So people, it being the most selling game of all time, it's just, you know, that track particular is cemented in people's heads. So, but I don't know. I mean, I like to think yes that it would be, but I don't know. It's kind of up there.
It has examples. It definitely has examples.
It does.
You know, Metroid and Kid Icarus came around the same time.
Right.
Metroid soundtrack, not that Kid Icarus is bad at all, but Metroid is definitely the more popular of the two soundtracks. You know, games very similar in style, came out around the same time, 1985, 86. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, 86.
We'll let our fans tell us.
Yeah.
What they think.
We'll kick it back to them. We'll do a whole roundabout here at the end because we're definitely going to be interested in what your guys' top 5 favorite tracks are. So we'll definitely give you the whole spiel on where you can link up with us, send us your thoughts, comments, and even suggestions on what you want us to talk about next week. So, Steve, we're going to go ahead and just get this started. We're going to start with our number 5, moving up to our number 1. This is Steve's number 5 pick. All right, Steve, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is the song Night Song from World of Warcraft.
That's a great track. It really is. And World of Warcraft is in a whole level of its own, I think, in terms of soundtracks.
Absolutely. Everything is orchestral. Everything is designed to draw you into a, for lack of a better term, a particular instance.
Yeah. No, I mean, every area, every expansion, my personal favorite has always been the Lich King. Mm-hmm. Because when you first step out into Northrend and you hear like the whole Celtic theme, and you're just like, this is how an MMO should be.
It screams epicness.
It does. You just, as soon as you get out, you're just like, you're in, it's just mountains and there's snow and this music's playing. You're just like, I don't even want to do any quests. I just want to stand, look at the landscape, and listen to this music. And that's That's so important to me. I'm sure to a lot of people it is as well. I'm sure it's very hard for you to pick a single track from all of the World of Warcraft games because I have about.
Oh, yes.
I could do a top 5 on that easily.
Oh yes, there's actually a few, but this is my standout favorite. It starts out very haunting. You know, the song itself, if you listen to it from beginning to end, it tells a story all on its own. And even if you don't know anything about Warcraft, the stories behind it all, shame on you, you really should. But even if you don't know anything, this is the kind of music that would make you want to play and you'd want to explore. And you're like, what is this about?
Yeah.
And that is what I think is grade A game music.
I agree. I think it's a great way to start it out. It definitely sets the bar for what's going to come on this list. And but that's a great choice. I commend you, sir. Good way to start it out.
Thank you.
Let's kick it off with mine. We're not gonna go as modern. We're gonna go a little old school on this puppy here. But here is mine, number 5. Oh my God, I just wet myself. That's my favorite part when it kicks in right there. Like, it's hard to describe. I love it. It takes it from like a simple song into something. It gets me so pumped up when just that rhythm change right there. I just absolutely love it. And now people are probably saying, why would you pick Battletoads? Because I think Battletoads is one of the hardest games ever made. The amount of hours I put into this game, I deserve the right to choose a track that I love.
That's right.
And this is it. This is Surf City. Obviously you're surfing on this level, and it's probably harder, if not maybe equal to the hover level. I think stage 2 when you're trying to go through.
You got to remember, 90% of our listeners probably haven't got past stage
That's
2
true.
in Battletoads because it is probably the hardest game.
Yeah,
that was the unfortunate side of Battletoads is a lot of people didn't get to hear the music because they couldn't get past the second stage.
Yeah, and this is kind of why we're doing this as well. For some of these harder games, you don't get a chance to experience. You'll hear this track, and hopefully it's gonna take you back to your childhood and be like, you know what, I want to replay these games. You know, I forgot how awesome they were. I mean, and kids today will never know the struggle. They will never know without having the internet, having to rely on Nintendo powers and gaming guides, waiting for the next month's issue to say, please let there be some kind of hint of what the hell I'm supposed to do.
Calling the Nintendo game counselors. Oh, my parents wasted so much money on that when I was a kid. Oh, man. I feel like I still owe them money.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still in debt. School's done, but I still owe my parents about $5,000 because thank you, Nintendo. But yeah, that's my number 5, and it's a solid choice, and I don't feel the need to explain. If anybody doesn't like it, you can eat some poop.
All right.
Yeah.
We're going to backpedal from that. But, one thing that, you're touching on is some old retro stuff.
Yes.
And I do like that.
Yes. I am a more fan. A more fan. It doesn't even make sense. I'm a bigger fan of more of the retro stuff. That's where most of my collection stands. Even though I'm now getting into more of the more modern orchestral stuff, but retro is really where my heart and my passion is for this kind of music.
Well, retro is my kind of overall go-to as it is. And as a matter of fact, my next pick, my number 4 pick, is a throwback to the Mega Man series.
Here we go. beautiful.
That is also Crash Man from Mega Man 2.
Mega Man, why?
This music was so fun. It was poppy.
Yeah.
And you didn't mind dying that 40th time
No.
on that stage because you got to hear this music again.
It's like I said earlier. I mean, the Mega Man soundtracks have such a unique sound to them, I feel, and the later ones got not as memorable. But I'd say the first 5 games are some of the best soundtracks out there. I mean, they're all very unique depending on the villain you're going up against, and it's amazing. Yeah.
And you know, like we were discussing before, the Mega Man games, the songs that they wrote for it fits the motif of Mega Man. You know,
Right,
it's
right.
very robotic sounding.
Yes,
with
yes.
the electric, with just the electronics that they use for the sounds and things like that. You know, it really stays true to that game.
What is your favorite Mega Man game? Would you say?
I have to think about this. I was not prepared for this question.
I like to I like to derail you real here.
That's okay. That's okay. I didn't have to think too hard. And I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, but my favorite Mega Man game was probably the Mega Man Legends.
I think you've said it before. Yeah, you know, I haven't played the Mega Man Legends.
Mega
game.
Man Legends, for those who haven't played it, it was the first Mega Man RPG combo. That it was the spirit of Mega Man with the RPG of Dragon Warrior
Interesting.
kind of feel for it.
Very cool.
Yeah, they did a Mega Man Legends and a Legends 2, and from that they did an offshoot. It was the Misadventures of Tron Bonne.
Okay.
All 3 of those games were for the PS1.
They're hard to find too, aren't they?
Yes. Oh, yes, they are. They're worth a lot of money, and I think Mega Man Legends, and I don't know if Legends 2 did, but I think they both made the port to the N64. And I think it was Mega Man 64 was Mega Man Legends.
Nice.
So,
Very cool.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
Very rarely are you wrong. Except right now you're wrong because you still have your shirt on.
All right, moving on.
I'm going to be the creeper of this podcast. I'm just putting that
Done.
out there. And speaking of creeper, we're going to move on to my next song, which probably is my favorite intro title of all time, and it has a very creepy feel to it. So take a listen and let me know what you think. In this particular case, simpler is better. And that is the intro theme to Metroid on the NES. Just those few notes just set you up for a game that is so brutal on your mind. It's perfect. Even though it kind of trails off here, like I don't like the happiness kind of thing they're throwing in here, but if they just stuck at that beginning part, so like to say something that even just the very beginning of a song is enough to have it make my list. It just says how powerful this track is to me.
The track itself is very. As soon as you hear it, you get the feeling of isolation.
Yes,
and you could tell it's a space game. Like as soon as I hear that, honestly, the first thing I think of is Aliens.
Yeah,
I mean, it's this like you can just see the moon, the planet, and the sun coming up, and you just we're not coming home kind of thing. and Metroid, very honestly, is exactly what that's all about. You know, you're one person in this planet, and that's it. You're cut off from everybody, and you're relying on your own skills and wit to make it through.
Right.
And again, it fits perfectly.
And that's one of the things I also love about all the retro games, and we've discussed this in the past, but sometimes we didn't have that many games. Right. So playing Metroid without any help and beating it, I should never have to work another day in my life.
You know, when games were worth $60 to
Yes.
play, and you actually got $60 out of it.
Yes, people who are now paying and getting it done in a couple hours or a day. They're like, no, this literally took me months of just trial and error.
And you had to map out every
Everything.
room because
Every room.
Who knows when you backtrack because they all look the same.
And people were like, video games are bad for you. No, it's not. I'm working on my cartography skills. I'm expanding my brain, my memorization. I mean, a lot went into these games, and it's great. And that's why I just, this track and this game particularly will always mean a lot to me, because it's just, my brother and I played this game for hours and hours and hours, and I never want to do it again.
Metroid, there was many games like it.
Yes.
But there's only one.
There is only one. Yes. Speaking of a game that has multiple of, your next track is
one of my favorites, which is why it's in my top 5.
Yes, this is a pretty sweet track. So let's go ahead and jump in the old skadoosh there. I had to wait till that part kicked in. I had to let people get a little taste of that.
I appreciate it. Castlevania. What can I say that hasn't been said that's amazing about the Castlevania series?
There's nothing you can say.
This song is called Heart of Fire. And this it was in the original Castlevania. It's been done a couple times through Castlevania's, going forward.
Yeah.
But it started here in the original Castlevania. It was the second to final stage through Dracula's castle. And, you get to the stage coming out of the dreary dungeons and where it's very dark and dismal. And you get to this stage, you get this music. And this ended with a boss, the Grim Reaper, which was very difficult at the time.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
And again, you're okay with losing because you got to hear this multiple times. And it's just a very driving song, and I think it's great.
The thing I also love about the Castlevania series is they reuse a lot of these songs, like you said, in multiple versions of the game. You'll hear Bloody Tears from Castlevania 2 used a lot.
Vampire Killer.
Yeah. I mean, through, Area of Sorrow and, the Game Boy games. And even don't they use a version of it in the Lords of Shadow on the PS3? Don't they have some kind of...
if they don't, it would surprise me.
I thought they had Vampire Killer in Lords of Shadow.
Oh, that they do. Absolutely. Absolutely they do. And it's... Why mess with a great thing? I
Exactly.
mean, when you hit on the right formula, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel every time. It clearly works.
Yeah.
And again, we keep going back to this. At least I do. That if you listen to our picks that we pick, those songs instantly define the games that we're picking.
Yeah.
You have that adventurous tone in Castlevania. You have that isolated, tone for Metroid. You have, the metallic quirky for Mega Man. It's that's exactly what we're trying to get to.
Yeah, yeah. And we each have very unique picks, where like our picks, we haven't really picked kind of the same style. We have a lot of difference, and it's great that we have kind of an eclectic taste when it comes to music. Even though we love video game music, we each have our favorites are all kind of all over the board, and it's really nice. And that's why I'm really interested in seeing what other people's picks are. I know people are going to be like, how could you not have this track on there? Because it's not my favorite. But let's hear what your top 5 is.
Right.
So they're going to have
and there's what you have 30,000 tracks,
and
that's really not even scratching the surface.
Yeah.
We picked 5.
I had to pick 5.
So we actually, before putting this podcast together, we've actually spent weeks, coming up with, all right, whittling us down to our top 5.
Yeah.
And this is where we are at. And it wasn't easy.
And I think it's pretty, I think it's a pretty good list because, you could sit here, we could sit here for months and be like, well, should I have this? Should I not have this? And just like, ultimately, what your favorite tracks are. And like I could listen to these 5 tracks forever and never ever get bored of them, and that's what it comes down to. Like I have so many memories and hours ingrained into these games that if I can still stand listening to these tracks,
Right.
that's it. That's the track for me.
Well, speaking of tracks for you, what's your third one?
Well, this one, a lot of people might not know, but this whole series is one of my favorites. It's a similar Metroid-ish style game, a lot of exploration and stuff like that. But listen to this track, and then we'll get back into it. How many times I've fallen asleep to this track alone is amazing. This is Heart of the Giant from Echo the Dolphin, the Songs of Time. This is on the Sega CD, and the Echo the Dolphin series, it's so different. You're playing a dolphin,
Alien dolphin,
an alien dolphin, and it's such a unique game. And like Steve was saying earlier, when you hear music from it, when you hear the intro, it just feels like you're underwater. You have this echoey feel and just like this reverberation going on, and it just sounds like there's waves, and it's calming, it's peaceful, and it's just like, this is something I would imagine being in the water, and it is. In the entire game, the whole series is like that, and I just love it. If you want something that's just relaxing, that's low-key, have on the background, check out all the Echo the Dolphin soundtracks.
I would have to second that. I mean, I'm also a big fan of video game music, and sure, we can run the entire gamut of, what's out there, but I would firmly agree, if you want a nice, peaceful, something to study by, something to work by, just tranquil background music, meditate, yoga, whatever it is you do, this soundtrack actually fits all of that.
Yeah.
And there's many times at work that I'll sit there and just have that playing while I'm working, and it's very soothing, it's very de-stressing, and that's very important.
When my daughter was first born, I actually put this soundtrack on when she was going to sleep when she was a baby, and she would sleep to it. So there's a science there. If you have a colicky baby, try putting on some Echo the Dolphin and see what happens.
I may have to try that. My son actually falls asleep to Final Fantasy music, so we may have to change that up a bit.
God bless you, sir.
Well, we all do what we can for our future.
We're starting them young. So we're going to go to the complete opposite side of the spectrum. If you want to feel relaxed and calm, listen to Echo the Dolphin. If you want to just get raged up and pumped up and ready just to go out and just slay the crap out of some dudes, this next track is not for the faint of heart.
This song has a very "we're going to invade your country" type feel to it. We're coming, and all you see is the troops over the rise, and you're pretty much done.
Yeah, this track. If you haven't heard it, well, I'll let you know. What track is this?
This is One Winged Angel from the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack.
And the actual first... Take a listen to this. The first Final Fantasy game to have lyrics. And boy, it was a doozy.
And is it me or does Latin make everything sound awesome?
Yeah, everything sounds better.
It doesn't matter what it is.
I mean, this song. I mean, the game in itself was defining for the series, but to end the game on this track, I know there's a lot of people out there that hate 7. That
what? Where are these people? They're wrong.
There's a lot of people, and I don't understand it not being your favorite, but to say you hate it, the music in this entire game is flawless. Flawless.
I agree.
I mean, in most Final Fantasy games, but 7, and I'm not just saying that because it's my favorite Final Fantasy. It's just perfect. And this, to end the game on this note, I'll never have another boss battle, regardless of how over prepared I am for that final fight. This track just it blows me away every time I hear it. For the time that it came out, what they were able to do with musical scores, considering the rest of the game wasn't like this. You know,
well,
it completely just switched up. It's like, you know what?
Right.
This is what we're doing now. You thought everything else was good. Just shove this up your tailpipe.
So here's the thing, though. I'm going to go out there and say, and I would welcome people to come back to me at this, is I think this song, The One-Winged Angel, was the turning point, a turning point in video game music. You know, this is what separated the boys from the men kind of thing. We had very basic music before. Now you have full orchestral, pulse pounding. This is the direction we're going now. So, gone is the days of 8-bit, 16-bit music. Here's where we're at, and this is where the future's going. And hopefully you're all on board. And fortunately, everybody was, because, this song just, by the time you've been dragged through the mud through this game, the ups and downs, the storyline,
the emotional roller coaster.
Absolutely. And by the time you got to Sephiroth at the end, and you're like, hey, this is it, and they played this music, you're like, oh, this is the most epic it's on that I'll ever encounter.
You're right, because in that game, the whole time you're just like, when I get my hands on him,
absolutely,
this is what I'm going to do, and it's like, please pump me up for this final fight. And this starts to be just like, it just, all of your emotions, like all the rage, anger you're feeling is just thrown out in this song, and it's perfect. It is perfectly done.
Absolutely, I would agree. To me, even though it's not my number one favorite, I have my number one favorite for personal reasons, but I would dare say this is on the top 5 of the best video game music song ever.
Oh, yeah.
Ever.
Yep.
Because of what it is. And even the people who have never played 7, I'm sure they're out there, would attest to, if they heard this, was like, wow, that's a game. That's amazing.
Yeah, and people who haven't heard it, and now they do, you have, it's like, oh, you have to understand that for the time when this track came out, you hadn't heard anything like this. Like, it's just like you said, you're going from, the bleeps and bloops and stuff, and all of a sudden now we have like an actual like kind of orchestral track.
Well, here's how epic it is. You ready for this? Okay, so here's how epic it is. It's so epic that when they introduced Sephiroth into the Kingdom Hearts series, you didn't even have to see him on screen. You heard the music start, and you automatically knew, oh my God, they had Sephiroth in this game.
Yeah.
And of course, then he comes out, and you knew that's who it was. you're like, oh, and instantly you've gone from like a 5 to a 10 on the scale of this is awesome, because it's Sephiroth.
Yeah,
So.
it probably is. It's one of the most, at least the villain themes, probably, I would think, one of the most memorable, if not the most memorable.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, we'll move on to the next one.
This is we're gonna step away from console here. We're gonna move into the PC age for this one. This one was very, very close to possibly taking the number 1 spot from me, but I'll talk about why in a second. God bless Diablo. This is the Tristram theme from Diablo. This... It's so hard for me to describe my feelings about this track because it's... I know One Winged Angel was perfect, but this track is just unbelievably perfect. This game is so creepy and evil. To start the game in a town that's like so decrepit and just this music playing, it's just... And I don't even know where to go from here. I mean, it's just like have you experienced Diablo 1? Like, have you played Diablo 1?
I've played a little bit of Diablo 1. I unfortunately got into that series late in the game as far as jumping on board with it. But I do know this music. I do know this is the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. I totally agree with
this
you.
This track is so awesome that if you actually call Blizzard to talk to like a World of Warcraft agent or whatever, this is the waiting music.
Yeah, right.
And it's just like,
right.
This is just, it's absolutely amazing. And I think it's Matt Uelmen or Ullman. I always forget how to pronounce his last name, who did the soundtrack for 1 and 2. I was very, very upset he wasn't brought back for Diablo 3. I feel the music in that game, it's not that it's bad, but Diablo 1 and 2 were amazing games. But 1 will always be my favorite. And this track, like I said, is so close to being number 1 for me because just so many things going on in this track. Majority of it guitar just overlapping each other, and it's just a fantastic. I watched the behind the scenes thing on him and like how he was doing it and all different sound effects that he was doing. He was doing like violin, like using a violin like pick or whatever it's called, like on a guitar, like they got like the din, 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 like all these different little.
Wow.
It wasn't just like he was doing all this crazy stuff, mixing it. He's like, let's just throw it together and see what it sounds like. Yep, that's gold.
Wow, yeah,
and
pretty
much.
It
worked out pretty well.
Well, what I like about this is that knowing, I mean, even though I haven't played through the game, I do know what the game's about.
Right.
And wow, is this music a false sense of security?
Yes.
When you're in that town.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, well, how bad can it be? Oh, you just wait. It gets bad.
And again, we're touching on the importance of music in a game. If you had like, the Benny Hill theme playing when you're going through this town, you're just like, okay, am I happy? I mean, am I going to see people throwing snowballs at each other and having fun? Like, no, like you need something that brings you into this world. And this is as soon as you start the game, this is the first thing that you hear, and you're just like, okay, this is real.
You
like,
want to feel.
I am literally about to face hell, and it's just it's creepy, it's scary, and it sucks all the emotion out of you, the positive emotion. And I think that's one of my earlier experiences with them.
Yeah. And it also, the good thing is, as you return from the dungeons on your different, things, you get back there and it's almost a sense of calming at that point.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
oh, okay, because you're safe, you can breathe.
Yeah.
You're not going to get attacked by something, and again, we keep going back to it. It pulls. It is exactly the right music for exactly the right time.
Yeah, yeah, it's perfect. Without that particular track, I personally don't know if Diablo would be as remembered. I know we talked about that, Nick, for the defining series for Diablo of its time, what it did.
Right.
Like it was the perfect way to start off this series, and it's just the track's been redone in the other games. Well played, sir. Well played.
Well, there's a track. There's a track in. I was just thinking about this in BioShock Infinite. Right in the very beginning, when you start the game, it's like this angelic, almost church-going music that was so captivating, I didn't want to play anymore. I just wanted to sit the controller right down in there. And those who have played the game know what I'm talking about. You sat there and just listened to the music.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even want to. I, to this day, have not been past the first sections of that game because I just sat and listened to that. Literally had it on my TV for like an hour and was doing other stuff while it was playing because I'm like, I just don't want to leave here.
I do that a lot with the Elder Scrolls series, particularly Oblivion. The music in that game is it's so beautiful, and you go outside and you're just like, I'm just going to look at the landscape. Like I have a screensaver on, the music playing. Oh, I'm looking at the trees blowing the wind. This is good. Storyline? No, I don't care.
Right.
That tree is moving and this music's awesome.
Right. And it's mine was Xanarkand for Final Fantasy X. was, or that and between that and Tidus's theme,
Yep.
it's very tranquil, very just, yeah, you just look at the world and be like, yeah.
That's another list I would love to do with top 5 intros for songs. That would be a fun list to do because
Final Fantasy VIII was probably the best. That fight with Squall and, oh wow, I forget his name.
Cypher.
Cypher. Yeah, that's it. Oh, man.
Well, before we start crying and tearing up over that, let's move to your number 1.
Number 1.
And it's a great track.
Number 1.
So everybody, put on your earphones and get ready to do the old danceroo here. Great track.
Blaster Master.
It's a great number 1, and it's such a nod to the old retro games. I love that you start out on such an old game. It's fantastic.
Well, Blaster Master, this whole track is just so well composed. It makes you want to play the game.
Yeah.
It drives you to keep going, and it's a great shooter action type game. And I'm into cycling and stuff like that, and there's a few times I've had my headphones on, and just when I think you can't pedal anymore, this song kind of comes on, and it's like woo, and you start pedaling, you find all this renewed strength and things like that, and that's the kind of power that it has.
It's great that a game from that long ago, from early 90s, Blaster Master,
early 90s, yep, Sunsoft,
that it can still have that effect and just bring back. And that's what this is about. Hopefully people are hearing these tracks and just being like, I remember that. I remember it back when I didn't have bills, when it was just about like having fun. Like, yeah, I have a family now. That's awesome. But it's like, back then when you got these new games and at the time it was just so groundbreaking, and I love it. I
agree.
I love retro games so much.
I agree. Well, because, at that point, they weren't just coming out and throwing stuff out whatever will pass.
Year.
Right, yeah, and things were just getting out there, and now the market is so saturated. Before, they would announce Final Fantasy was coming out, the very first one, and you're like, what is that? And then they'd sneak a little bit more. It's almost like a theatrical trailer where you're just waiting, and they keep teasing you, and then boom, it's out.
Yeah.
And it's like the biggest thing ever.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny that you said Final Fantasy. I'm sure you know this, but Final Fantasy saved them from bankruptcy. Like,
yes.
If Final wasn't a success, they wouldn't have said, oh, kudos to you, sir.
And
you created one of the greatest series of all time.
And that's actually why it's called the Final Fantasy, because that was their last shot at making something profitable.
Yep.
And boom. So they're like, this is our Final Fantasy, and the name stuck, and now it's, 14, almost 15.
Almost 15.
Into the series now.
Yeah.
I think it did pretty well for itself. That's just numbered Final Fantasies.
Yes.
That's not offshoots that, the 5 or 6 for Game Boy, the other ones like Chronicles.
There's probably like 25 games. Then you have Crisis Core for the PSP.
Irgez.
If you count like the Final Fantasy Tower Defense games, and you have Final Fantasy Theater Rhythm for the
Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah, Tactics.
The list just goes on and on and on.
On and on and on and on.
Crossing into other games, Kingdom Hearts.
Yes.
It's Disney meets Square Enix.
In case you were wondering, we are big Final Fantasy fans here at Cast Revive, and if you're not on board, then
there's a good reason we're those big fans, because those games are worth playing.
Yes, they are. Every single one of them. Maybe not 5.
Maybe not 5. I was going to say maybe not 5.
Maybe not 5. I know there's people out there who love 5. And 5, don't get me wrong, 5 is a good game, but compared to the others,
it's on the list. It's just at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, I mean, of 1 through 14, it might be like number 14.
Yeah.
But it made the list. That's the important part.
That's right.
Speaking of list, and not the bottom, but the top, here is my top pick. and I'll go into why in about 35 minutes when I replay this track for you over and over again because it's that good. Do a barrel roll. Star Fox Corneria theme. Yes. This game and this track specifically is what got me into video game music. I was over at my friend Bowdy's house, AM Team, and he had the Super Nintendo. I did not own one when I was growing up. He got this. He had Street Fighter, and he popped this in, and I heard this track, and I couldn't believe coming from regular Nintendo and going to this, just graphically, and then the music for it, I was just like, this is it. Yes. Like, it's got rock, it right out the gate, and it's so important for, I believe, a game to start out with such a strong track, because it sets the tone for what you're going to happen, and this game is so nuts and so fast-paced that this track is just, it's perfect.
And again, this track is the one you chose because it's your favorite. All of the Star Fox tracks are just as good.
Yes.
Every one of them, again, every planet that you go to, the music for it fits that planet. When you're on Venom, it's got that dark, ominous music. When you're on different planets, if it's a water planet, it has that aqua type sound to it. But this is Corneria.
Yeah.
And this is your very first stage, and it is just I think it's the best track that they have, but it's not. That's just the best on that CD.
Right.
All of them are awesome.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're right. And if you haven't played any of the Star Fox games, I highly recommend checking them out. They are absolutely fantastic, and I'm looking forward for the next one coming out for the Wii U.
Very nice.
Yeah. So hopefully it. What was the one where you went on land? It was Star Fox
Adventures.
Was it Adventures
with the dinosaurs?
Yeah.
I own that. I've actually really enjoyed that game.
Yeah,
it got a lot of harsh reviews.
I think it's supposed to be more like that. I think it's supposed to have that mix. But we'll see if the soundtrack holds true, because like you said, all of them have been really well done. It's just this one was my introduction to the game, and it just cemented my love for video game music. And ever since then, I've been a huge fan, and just been collecting.
All right,
rock and roll. So, anything else you want to add before we? Since that concludes our top five, and I gotta say, that's a pretty beastly top five.
I agree. Yeah, we again, it took a long time to come up to the 5 best.
Yeah.
In our opinion, our favorites. But what I want to know is if people agree with our list. What are their top 5s? What are they surprised we didn't have?
Right.
And we don't want to know just what they are, but let us know why they are.
Yeah. Why are you so passionate about these tracks? What is it about them that cements them as a place in your musical history?
And there is no wrong answer.
No, not at all. Unless you pick the opening theme for Little Mermaid on Sega Genesis, then we're going to have a problem.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Go home.
There is nothing wrong with that. You send in those.
So, yeah, this is basically what we're going to be doing every week. And we're really hoping that you guys, the listeners, get involved. We really want you. We're going to put polls up, and hopefully you guys will decide what we talk about for the next week. We want you to lead our discussions. And I think that it's just going to be a lot of fun, a lot of interaction. We want to get some people here on the show. And eventually I want to do kind of a Name That Tune, get people on, and we play a little Jeopardy-style game, and maybe have prizes, something of that sort, just to really get people involved and have a lot of fun with it. Because that's what this is all about, just throwing some nostalgic action at you, having some fun, and listening to some good tunes, baby.
And something else that we're going to do is we're going to put another podcast out there that's going to just play the music that we chose,
Right.
For our top fives in its entirety, so that you have those, and then we'll do the same thing each podcast.
These guys suck. I like the music, but I really want to listen just without their voices. And I'd be like, all right, no problem. I'll throw up an audio track for you. Thank you, sir. So hopefully we have someone that sounds like that. That would be fantastic.
It could probably happen.
So if you want to follow us, we are on probably the easiest place to find us would be on Facebook. Just type in Cast Revive. We're going to have links to all of our stuff through there. We're also on Twitter at Cast Revive, CASTREVIVE. We have a WordPress page as well. Maybe at some point we'll be writing some articles, things like that. And we're also on YouTube, Cast Revive, where we're going to have video formats of the playlist on there. So if you can't do podcasting, don't have a way of downloading it, you'll have it on YouTube to listen to while you're at work or while you're cooking dinner or currently intimate with your significant other. They're always good tracks.
I would second that.
Especially One Winged Angel.
One Winged Angel. That's right. If that comes on,
yes,
you know it's on.
Top 5 most intimate tracks.
All 5 of them would be One Winged Angel. All of them.
All 5.
All
There's
5.
no other. Yes.
That doesn't need to be.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this one. We definitely had a lot of fun sharing with you our history and what kind of got us into it. And we hope to see you and hear from you online. And every Monday, we're going to have a release. So it's a weekly podcast. So look for us online and have a nice listen on your commute to work or at home or in the shower, wherever you like to listen to us. Hopefully in the shower, so I can help. No? Stay away from that? Okay.
No, we'll stay away from the shower.
Like I said, stay away from the shower. Don't want to get like electrocution, stuff like that. Water and electricity don't really mix. So anyway, Steve, you got anything you want to say before we dip out?
No, I think we're good. I'm excited to hear what everyone's going to say and the feedback.
Yes, please let us know what you think, yay or nay. Constructive criticism. Let us know if there's things you didn't like, what you'd like us to do differently, or an overall. Just send us your list of your tracks. We really want to talk about it next time. If you get some feedback, we can read them off on the show and kind of give our thoughts on the tracks that you picked. And like I said, there's no wrong answer. It's just for fun. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week. Peace.